Good morning, friends. Where are you? Wherever you are. Where are you? Where am I? Where's Ben? I'm 4 minutes late. What can I say? Cheers. Hope you're having a great Saturday. Who's in the house? Let me get my coffee warmer going. Wally's in the house. Angelo's here. Ex-collie Kev. Carrie Myers. Price tag. Hey, buddy, one of my wonderful moderators. Good to see you again, Joe. Michael. Hey, Michael. Z-Zip in the house along with Denny. Hey, Denny. I saw you called me. I had a missed call, but I was setting up the stream. So, couldn't take it at that second. But we should talk. Chef Steve in the house. Ben, I went to a fish auction yesterday and got some Australian rainbow fish for a bargain. I tell you, those local groups are probably the best for a variety of reasons. One, you get great deals. Second, in my opinion, very often they're raised up in the same water type parameters that you have because they're local, and because of that the transition is very easy. So at any rate, welcome to my moderators. Denny. Hey, Denny, a moderator of mine. Angelo's in the house. Zach Most, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Good morning, Zach. Been a very busy moving and now have a baby on the way. Wow. Tank scheduled to move, hired a professional company to move it. Not a bad idea. I actually chickened out when I moved from California and simply sold all the tanks. Don't know why the law. I just didn't want to risk the breaking, the scratching, So I came here and I started with an empty garage, and slowly started to accumulate tanks. And fortunately, along the way, made some great friends and some good deals. James over at the Cichlid Shack, who's no longer around in business, helped me out to get going. I did have some help from my friends over at Glass Cages and some of the good deals through James. And some folks helped with fish. I mean, it was a process, but it was quite the process, starting with an empty garage. But anyway, good luck on that. I hope it all goes well, and congratulations on that new baby. Is that your first? And if it is, life will never be the same, I assure you. Josh P. in the house. Finsanity Aquatics. Michael Evans is giving us a visit. Good morning to you. So I want to talk today about a topic that, as you become a kind of an old, a crusty old fish keeper, you can lose some of that excitement and joy that you might have felt when you were a child. And yes, that is me on the thumbnail, sitting there on a couch in my diapers with my grandma. And don't know how old I was, maybe 1.5, maybe 2. But at any rate, do you remember that first time that you saw an aquarium and the colors and the fish and the plants and the whatever, and that feeling you had inside, that sort of describe it, like it kind of wells up inside of you, and it's kind of a sense of wonder mixed with joy, mixed with anticipation, optimism. It's all these wonderful feelings, right? And then you move along in life, and it's kind of easy to kind of get a little old and crusty on the whole thing, and so recently I've been acquiring some fish, and this is not to say that the fish I had already were not exciting to me, because they were. I love redhead tapajos, my Congo tetras, the cichlids you see behind me, the South and Central American tank. I love my planted 55. I love everything about those tanks, and they do excite me. But recently, there's been some I've just been sort of expanding, stretching a little bit into some other types of fish, and it's got that little bug in me going again, that excitement, that joy that wells up, that, whoa, it's like, look at those colors, look at that shape. And it's very cool, very, very cool. Now, can I get a, did someone give me already a sound and video check? I'm going with the old school microphone today, but, oh, wait a minute, here we go. Ex-colleague, AV good. Just don't hit the mute. You're never gonna let me forget that, are you? I can't hit the mute on this. Well, I guess I can. There's a button here I can touch, but anyway. Mr. Sophisticated in the house. DSGF. Thank you, price tag, on that AV check. So, is there a fish that you think was key, instrumental in getting you pumped up, excited, and moving into the hobby? Was there a particular fish that you can think back and go, when I saw that fish, pardon the pun, I was hooked and reeled in? And I'd love to hear what fish was good for you. What fish was the one that made your eyes pop out? Which one was it that made you make a promise to yourself that someday I'm going to have an aquarium with that fish in it? And I'd be curious to know what that fish was for you. Josh says, my buddy's firemouth. I love fire. A good-looking firemouth. I've got one with green eyes. They are beautiful. And Josh, that I could see that. I could totally see that. Arowana for ex-colleague. Arowanas are like when you're a kid and you see an arowana, it's like you're seeing a dragon, right? You're seeing a swimming dragon for the first time. Arowana, totally get it. Totally get it. Chef Steve, on another topic, has 6 adult red devils, and they've become the Fight Club. Well, whenever you see the word devil or terror in the name, it's like, they're trying to warn you, Chef Steve. Ross Dingle in the house. Hi to you. Let's see. Arowana was the fish for me. Wally's fish. Yeah, we're probably going to see that a lot. Mr. Sophisticated says a goldfish because we had red-colored lights, which made goldfish really pop out. I still have a goldfish tank. Well, that's interesting. Putting a red light on a goldfish, I could see that. That could make them look spectacular. Geophagus for Kendall G. Totally get it. Both in color. Well, more than just two things: color, shape, and the way they sift the sand constantly. They're just a very fun fish to have and to watch and to enjoy. Hello, Miguel. Yep. Justin says a fired up rostratus. That is an eye-popping fish, very different from what you normally see out there. Just a very good-looking fish. Price tag, neon cardinal tetras. That's one of the fish I'm going to talk about today. I mean, when you're young and haven't really been exposed to tropical fish, and all of a sudden you see a neon. And for me, it was neons and rasboras were in the first tank I ever had. Never forget. I think maybe a couple zebras. But it's like, whoa, how is this even possible? Does this fish have a battery pack? Is it real? Right? Because the colors are just so nutty. Kendall's a Firemouth fan. Mr. Sophisticated, there is some superstition associated with keeping fish. I'll tell you something kind of weird when you think about it, but it's a superstition that was certainly around the Latin Puerto Rican household I grew up in, and that was that if you had a pet and something happened to the pet, it was something that was going to happen to you, but the pet took the hit for you. How isn't that a funny kind of a way to maybe make children feel better about losing a pet? But that was not uncommon in the Spanish households. Oh, something happened to your pet, they sort of took the hit for you. Isn't that an odd superstition? But it was floating around when I was growing up. Michael, his dream was to have a room full of. Michael, when you went to the fish store, I'll go ahead and put his message at the top there. When you went to the fish store, you didn't just say, "I want some of those and some of those." You said, "I want a fish store," and you're up to 7 tanks. That's very, very cool. Just realized the other day that I'm living my childhood dream. Isn't that cool? Living your childhood dream. Heaven loves large fish. Someday, don't become just. Someday, maybe you'll find a spot where you can put a tank with a big footprint. Maybe a garage, maybe something like that. Yeah, Rostratus, Chef Steve, Rostratus sifting sand is pretty amazing. You know, Michael, the Jacob Frabergi, however you pronounce them, those fish are beautiful, absolutely beautiful. They can be a little bit territorial, I had one that used to protect the rock, and nobody could get near that rock. Dennis, I'm not sure what you're asking. Could you please have my new soon-to-be... Are you asking for a shout-out for Iris? Congratulations, Iris, on your upcoming nuptials to Denny Rudell. Very, very cool, buddy. I wish you both happiness. Heaven is talking about the Harlequin, yeah. Yeah, and again, imagine being a 5 or 6 year old who had never seen fish in aquariums, and all of a sudden, mom shows up with this metal framed 5-gallon tank, and your eyes are popping out. You can't believe what you're seeing, and that it's possible to own or have something like that. Michael, I used to hang out. There was a little fish store in Echo Park. In the Echo Park, Silver Lake area of central Los Angeles. It was called Bob and Esther's, and it was an old guy and his old wife, and just the two of them in there. And you'd walk in, and the place was kind of dark, and all the tanks were lit, and you had the humidity of a lot of tanks, and it had a feel, the sound of the bubbles, the sponge filters, and the second you walked in, you were kind of transported into this sort of fish world. It was very, very cool. Justin H., I will be getting a new Linny as soon as I can find one. I think Beantown will keep their eyes out for me. I do want one, and hopefully this time around I can get one. That was a little bit of a heartbreaker for me. Michael, I had arowanas. I get it. Snakeheads. If snakeheads were legal, some of the snakeheads I've seen, the colors and the pattern, the way they move, if they were legal, I think for sure I'd have one. They are off-world fish. Chef, I have kept rainbows a while back. Don't have any now. Ross just got a couple Oscars. You're going to fall in love with them, Ross. They're basically a puppy dog that lives in the water. They will eat from your hand. If they clamp onto your finger, it can be a little bit alarming. They'll come out of the water up to half of their body to go after food. And they torpedo food. So you got to really spread the food around when you have them living with other fish, because they will really hog all the food. But I'm having a lot of, maybe you know more about Oscars than I do, and here I am explaining it to you. But Oscars are, I didn't think I'd enjoy my Oscars as much as I am. They're both staring at me right now. The albino Oscar, who is much smaller than the red tiger, the traditional red tiger. But they're living in there with a Jack Dempsey and a Salvini and a whole bunch of silver dollars, a red shoulder, Severum, a Nicaragua, a couple chocolates. Anyway, it's a very fun tank to look at. Kendall G, wow, what a way to and the amazing thing about your story, Kendall, is that somehow you ended up a fish keeper anyway. So I commend you. Oh, when I was a kid, I was traumatized by my stepmom. How come it's always stepmoms that traumatize us? What's the deal? Even in Disney movies. Stepmom's aquarium, her hatchet fish kept jumping out and her big crab escaped. I think I associated the fish with worms or snakes that would get Oh my goodness. I had a snail named Gary, used to always escape, but nobody was afraid of him. He was a mystery snail. And I had him in an aquarium that was about 4 feet off the ground, and he would take that fall, and I'd find him, and he'd have a little crack, and I'd put him back in, and he'd somehow manage to get out again. Gary was not too smart, but he was a beautiful snail. Chef Steve, what do you think will be your next tank setup and stocking? Well, you know, I've got to get this discus project going. That'll be my next big project. Getting the discus into the 90-gallon. The question I keep rolling around is where the fish in the 90-gallon are going to go. Would they thrive in the 210 with the other fish? Or do I need a whole different... I've got a 60-gallon acrylic that's not being used right now, just sitting by the back door of the garage. So, hey, Mitty Mac, good to see you. So, it's... we'll see. I think that'll be the big project. I even had a fleeting thought last night about an apisto tank, like make something that is species specific. But I think the apistos that I've fallen completely in love with will do okay in the 55 planted. Which brings me to today's topic. Let me share something with you. But before I do that, let me do our traditional start here. just doesn't feel right unless I do that. I also, before I really get rolling here, I want to do a special shout out to those of you who have committed to a monthly support of the channel. I'm talking about the Garage Gang, and those of you who support the channel on a monthly basis by being Patreon supporters. And it really helps. It helps a lot. And I want to thank all of you who do that. Very big shout out to all of you. You are very more appreciated than I think you know, because I just don't get to it as much as I should. I also have a lot of support from certain vendors that I do want to do a quick shout out to, and those, the Aquarium Co-op, of course, they help me out a lot. Darius and his family up at Northfin, and of course Cunningham Tropicals, who I believe will still honor 15% off if you go ahead and use that code, and that is for fish and dry goods. So check that out. And a couple more plugs, and then we'll go on to commercial free and today's main topic. If you shop on Amazon, and who doesn't, consider using this link to get there. Once you arrive at Amazon, you can then jump out to anywhere in Amazon and do your shopping. But because you use that link to get there, the channel would get a credit. Small credit. It's a small percentage, but it helps. If you would like to support the channel by getting a hold of some channel swag, like coffee cups and t-shirts and things of that nature, consider visiting my Teespring store. All these links are available underneath my banner if you're on a PC. So there you go. We are now commercial free. Jojo in the house. Hey, Jojo. And thank you for those kind words, my friend. Now, are you sure it's love? Love is a pretty strong word. You don't be using that lightly. All right, let's see here. Midi Mac, Heaven. Let me see. I'm just looking at the chat here. You guys are really throwing up some interesting stuff. But let's go ahead and get into today's specific topic. I have a certain fish that have been rekindling my excitement recently. Now, this list is not going to be everyone, but I created a little slideshow, and the green tear, cardinal tetras, starry night, my discus, this new apisto. These fish are all fish that recently have gotten me, excited. And by that what I mean is they've gotten me a little bit rekindled and pumped up about the future of the fish room. Doesn't mean I wasn't pumped up or that I was burned out or anything like that, because I wasn't really burned out. But there's something about learning about a new species, acquiring some of the new fish, and that just sort of adds a little bit of a spark. And when I tell people, if you're ever feeling a little bit burned out or a little bit run down about fish keeping, that it would be a good idea. All you need to do is think back on when you were having the most fun and then recreate that. So maybe now you have 10 tanks and it's all a lot of work and you're exhausted, and the thought of, working on your tanks makes you cringe a little bit. When was it mostly fun? Go back to that. Maybe it was 2 tanks. Maybe it was 3 tanks. Go back to that. for me recently, it's been the learning about new species. And the empire gudgeons, that I added. I'm very excited about where those empire gudgeons are going. You see the empire gudgeon on the thumbnail of the video. Where they're going to end up, I can't wait. And it's one of those fish that you grow out and you hope it's a male, and if it is a male, you kind of won the lottery because they are just so beautiful. When that starry night gets up around 8 to 11 inches, that's going to be phenomenal. Where am I going to keep them? Probably, maybe in the 210 with the South Americans. What about the discus when they start to get the size of dinner plates? I mean, watching discus under those circumstances is very, very cool. And what if a couple of them pair up and I get baby discus? How exciting will that be? So these kinds of fish are reinvigorating me and getting me excited. Now, could I have just continued going? Look, if I only had enough room for a 210, let's say, I'd probably have African cichlids in it. I mean, that's the truth. And at my absolute fish keeper core, I'm an African cichlid guy. Now, I would be longing for discus, Oscars, now that I know about them, apistos, geos, right? I would want a tank full of neons. So, ex-colleague Kev pushing for Shelleys. That's what I hear from Denny all the time. Get some Shelleys, get some Shelleys. Heaven, I don't know. That's a good question. It's certainly not something that has been thought out. I'm not sure snails do much thinking. Certainly Gary didn't. Maybe he liked the joy of that long fall, Whee! You can fall for a long time. It's that sudden stop that gets you. Ben, community, good morning. Hey, Kim and Carl in the house. Just want to give a shout out and say hi. Have to head into work. I have an aquarium in my office. Needs maintenance also. Very cool. Very cool. I never got to the point, and I worked for the same company for 33 years before I went into what has turned out to be semi-retirement. And I never had a tank or a fish in my office. I think there was always a concern that it would ruin the carpet. So Michael found a cockatoo. Now, I'm assuming that you're referring to that crazy Synodontis that swaps its eggs out with African cichlids, so that the African cichlids end up mouth brooding the catfish's eggs in his mouth. They're born before. They actually hatch before the cichlids, so they eat the cichlid eggs that the female cichlid is carrying around for nutrition, and then one day they explode out of that cichlid's mouth, and there's Synodontis cats everywhere. It's a crazy situation. They swoop in when they see African cichlids laying eggs and swap out their eggs. I mean, dump their eggs in there. It's crazy how that would even evolve in nature. I'm not sure what an albino hoplo catfish, what that is. I'd have to look that up. Chef Steve? Some catfish are just amazing. How about all the different plecos that exist? I mean, there's some plecos that are just unbelievable. All I've got are bushy nose spotted, black, and albino bushy nose, which I keep because they don't get too big. But man, oh man, there are some plecos that are crazy. Heaven, you're making a very good point. The fish keeping, for many, including myself, is a great way to disconnect. Just to unplug from all the nonsense. And the world has certainly had a lot of nonsense. And so you go sit in front of your aquarium or for me, you work on your aquarium, right? I mean, you've got to really pay attention. You don't mess up, right? So it requires you to really invest all your attention. And what that does is it pulls the attention off of the nonsense and noise that is being provided to us 24/7. I mean, back in the day, all you had to do was take a walk and you were disconnected from it all. These days, with a phone in our pocket, it's 24/7. And so it's hard to kind of unplug unless you consciously, I'm going to leave my phone at home today, right? And so, yes, definitely. Definitely sit in front of your tank and enjoy the heck out of it. Make Apistos great again. All right, let's see. Did I read this small print incorrectly on your Synodontis? Let me see. It's possible. The chat appears on my computer is very small print. Don't rag me too hard. Synodontis cuckoo catfish. I got cockatoo. I got that stuck in my head from that apisto I picked up with that beautiful yellow tail. Such a pretty fish. I think I had a this guy. He's in my 55-gallon planted right now. I can see him from where I'm sitting. And so, hey, I've got cockatoo on my mind. So give me a break. Love that fish. Very, very pretty. And again, I'm kind of getting the bug, the apistogramma bug. Do you have apistogrammas or have you kept them? Is there an apistogramma that you feel, now mind you, a dwarf, right? I prefer the dwarf, the smaller varieties. But is there an apistogramma that you feel I absolutely should hunt for and have? If there is, go ahead and tell me in the chat. You're right, Ron. And we do need to zone out sometimes. We do need that, we do need to zone out and unplug. Kali, it's time for you to get an aquarium again, sir. I know you love the hobby. That's why you show up here every Saturday and you watch the videos. But time for you to get a tank. I know you've got room. All right. So, do any of you have any specific questions that you would like to ask me? And I will go ahead and switch this over. I'll switch this over to the chat. Give me a second. There we are. All right. Is there a specific question that you would like to ask me that is does not include any politics or religion? Aqua balls. Check out Redfish Bluefish for a pistogramma. He has some rare ones. Does he sell them, or is it just a YouTube channel? And I will check that out. Redfish Bluefish. So here's your opportunity to ask me a question, and I will go ahead and answer it. By the way, if you have something very interesting that has occurred in your aquarium, and you would like me to see it or consider featuring it in an upcoming live stream or even in a video, go ahead and send it to ben.o.ciclid at gmail.com. ben.o.ciclid at gmail.com, and I will be happy to take a look at it and consider, I can't guarantee that I will, but I'll consider including it in an upcoming live stream. I get it, Kev. You have wood floors now. And yeah, you know my experience with wood floors and aquariums. Ron, my vacation was great. Thank you for asking. I had a lot of fun. Took a little time off. I will be taking more time off over the holidays. I have kids flying in for Thanksgiving and certainly around Christmas, so we'll be missing some live streams around that time. Certainly Thanksgiving weekend, there'll be no live stream. My boys are flying in, one from Florida, one from California, and I've got my two daughters here, and they're bringing their significant others. We're going to have a full house here. My son in California was a very happy boy last night. He has Dodger Stadium tattooed on his left shoulder, and you can imagine how excited he was last night, especially watching history, a single player strike out 10 batters and get 3 home runs. Who knows if we'll ever see that again in a major league game. Absolutely off the chart. Heaven, it's been in the, it's something I've been rolling around for a while because I know it's going to have to happen. 10 discus in a 55-gallon. The rule of thumb you hear thrown around, which may or may not be entirely accurate, but is usually 1 discus for every 10 gallons. So technically they should be in a 100-gallon plus setup. So I might cheat a little bit and put them in a 90. And the fish that are in the 90 right now, such as like those rainbows, I'm not sure if the rainbows can take, if they can take 83 degrees. Don't know if the redhead Tapajos can. So I'll probably take the fish that are in the 90 right now and maybe split them up between that 60-gallon acrylic that I mentioned earlier and the 210-gallon. So we will see how some of those would do in the 210. The 210 seems to be okay with fish that I add. I haven't had the fish in the 210 necessarily attack and try and destroy a new fish. a new fish tried to destroy them. When I put that red tear in there, as soon as he got comfortable, he started to really go after the Oscar and the Vieja relentlessly, like he had them completely cowed and cornered in the aquarium. But the 210 seems to be kind of mellow. It doesn't mean it can't change. I mean, you got cichlids, right? With that little switch that can flip in their head and they go insane. But maybe rainbows and geos. Redhead Tapajos, and I said rainbows, not rainbows. Blue Congo tetras. So scratch rainbows. Blue Congo tetras and redhead Tapajos in that 60-gallon acrylic could be a very cool setup. Would the red spotted severum stay in there with him? Possibly. Would I continue growing the Starry Night? Yep. The Green Terror has to go into the 210 because he'll get to a point where he'll try to assert himself. So he needs to be in a tank with larger, more established fish. The Starry Night can probably live in that 60-gallon acrylic for about a year. They live a long time. They get over 10 inches. They're slow growers. They get very chunky. So anyway, a lot of moving parts in my head right now. The other side of it also is that those 10 discus in that 55 are really really vibrant and healthy looking. So I'm reluctant to make any changes before absolutely having to. So we'll see what direction that goes in. And that is a very, very good question, Ross. That's why I had that fleeting thought last night about a pistogramma tank. Putting a whole bunch of plants that will do better since they're not trying to live at 83 degrees. I've had a lot of trouble trying to get these plants to take at 83 degrees. But putting a lot of plants in there and throwing a bunch of apistos in there. But then again, I kind of like the way the apistos look in the 55 planted. They seem to be getting along okay there. So I don't know. I don't know what'll go in that 55. The truth is that when you have very large fish, you probably need a 55 hospital tank. Like, let's say, God forbid, knock on wood, that it doesn't happen. But let's say my big Oscar had something go on that needed medicating. I mean, I can't put him in a 29 or a 10. He would be absolutely miserable. So I'd probably have to put him in something like a 55. So anyway, lots of moving parts. Kendall G wants rainbow shiners. Now, are rainbow shiners, Kendall, are those fish that are like indigenous? I mean, are they fish that we find here in the United States, in lakes, tributaries? I've heard that there are some beautiful fish that you can get locally, but you got to watch out because they do bring some mean old parasites. Joe Zalman, I have never heard of a pinstripe damba. Will you send me? You want to send me a picture of one? Or tell me about it? At ben.o.ciclid at gmail.com. Never heard of that fish. Definitely sounds like you're excited about it. Now, Tanganyikan fish. Zach, Tanganyikan's are beautiful. And 55, assuming you don't get bigger varieties, I guess. But yeah, 55 should be okay. That would be a fun project. I'm going to have to look up pinstripe damba. Apparently, some of you know about them. I've never heard of them. Joe has turned a 400 into a breeding. Are they very large? That's a lot of gallons. Are you talking gallons or liters? Ex-Cali wondering where Whip is. Now, I know Whip was at the, I know he was at the KG Tropicals live stream last night. I lurked and I saw him. So you're right. He better show up with a note. Madagascar. Renee, you must be answering somebody's question. Madagascar? Referring to the Starry Night? Extinct in the wild. Okay. From Madagascar. Yeah, I've heard they've really messed up the water with pollutants, industrial dumping of pollutants, and Madagascar can't really support that much freshwater life anymore because of the pollution. So a lot of their fish only exist in the hobby now. So that's very good that you're breeding them. Zach wants some rock dwellers and some open water. So what are you thinking, like tang? I mean, yep, you can get some rock dwellers. I mean, some people will put Mabuna and peacocks together. As long as your tank has enough rock work and enough caves, I mean, the Mabuna will stay low and the peacocks will stay high. But I would suggest nothing smaller than a 75 or 125 if you're going to go that route. All right. Any more burning questions in your head that you feel must get answered? And then I have a quick survey for you. You know, there are very few topics that at some point I haven't made a video about. And if people go into my library, my video library, there's like over 1,000 videos. And I always tell people, if you're interested in the topic and you go into the library, go to the more recent videos, because that'll kind of show you where I've sort of evolved to and what my most current conclusions are about certain topics. But is there a particular topic that you want to see a video about? Go ahead and tell me in the chat. If you're watching the replay, tell me in the comments under the video. And I'll probably do a survey also on the community page, the YouTube community page. It's it gets to a point where, I'd like to talk to you about sponges as filter media, but I've got about 11 videos on that already. I want to talk to you about canister filters. I've got a whole playlist on canister filters. I want to talk to you about what I think are the best foods, but I've got a whole food playlist. So where do I go from here? Is it mainly going to be about new tank setups, the transferring of fish, the acquiring of new fish, the learning about new fish? Where do you think the channel should go in the future in light of all the topics I've covered already? What would you like to see? Probably the most dedicated subscribers are you, the ones who show up for the live stream. What would you like to see in future videos? Your opinion is very valuable to me. So tell me in the chat. I'd love to know. Tiffany Clark Grove in the house. Would also love a Lake Victoria. Now, Lake Vic has beautiful fish. Beautiful fish, I think. Some of the fish in Lake Victoria are absolutely stunning. However, just a word of warning, they can be extremely aggressive. So just keep that in mind. You're going to need a big footprint. You're going to need some things that break up the line of sight. You're going to need some hiding places. But if you get it to work, Lake Vic are absolutely showstoppers. Ben.o. Great Lakes, hello to you. Ben.o., I can only give you an opinion, and I saw some of them at Aquashella, like the Oasis, and the advantage of the Oasis is that you can remove the heater and not use it if you don't want. You can also unplug the heater if you don't want to have it running, because it's in its own separate dedicated compartment. So it's just another way to get equipment out of the aquarium. But if it's very cold and you have, let's say, your canister isn't working for whatever reason, I advise you have a backup, or let the canister be unplugged for a little while, then take the heater out of the canister and put it into your tank. Or maybe have a backup heater in the aquarium, but then that sort of defeats the purpose of hiding equipment inside the canister. So it's got its pluses and minuses. I mean, I have some on my bigger tanks. I could hide the heaters in there, but I have heaters in the sump and in the tank just to sort of share the load. And if one goes out, I still have a heat source. So now, all that being said, I've heard great things about Oasis as a company. It sounds like they're making a good quality heater in there. I haven't heard of any failures. Denny has one of the Oasis thermo, what are they called, Denny? Thermo units or whatever they're called. And they seem to work well. Heaven is suggesting a species spotlight. The trout you have is one I think of right away. Yeah, he's a special fish. Ron says to show followers tanks. Well, I'll tell you, I'll invite you folks here on the live stream. If you would like to show me your tank, I'm not going to get into critiquing, criticizing, tearing it apart, telling you what's wrong with it. I don't think that's a direction I'd want to take. But if you want to send me your tank, I'd be happy to show it and possibly comment on it. I can't guarantee you that I'll show it, but if you send it to me, I'll consider showing it for sure. Again, just attach it to an email to ben.o.ciclid@gmail.com. Kendall G, she's into it. Yeah, why not? Why not? What I'd like to know is if you sent me a picture of your tank, include the details about it: size, substrate, decor, filtration, heating, water circulation. Tell me about the tank. Tell me why you went that way. Like, why did you set it up the way you set it up? And we can share your take on your tank, as opposed to me becoming some sort of critic, which I don't want to become. Why did you choose those fish? Why did you decorate it that way? Why did you include that decor? That would be interesting, I think. So go ahead. There you have it. Email me that with the information, and we'll go from there. Justin H., Cloudy Eye and Popeye. Those are two very different conditions. They're both very frustrating conditions. I've had a fish or two over the years who lost an eye and would only swim in circles in the direction of where they had an eye. The first piece of advice when you see a cloudy eye is lots of fresh water. If it starts to get big, get fuzzy, like a little bit of a growth, I mean, now you're getting into possible bacterial infections. You got to pull that fish out and, apply maybe some general cure, something like that. Maybe some salt, right, to help with the regulation of what's going on in exchanging of minerals and salt with the body. Very frustrating when you get eye issues with fish. I've got a Nicaragua that pretty much has lost the use of one eye. Don't know why. I think she scraped it against something. It doesn't look like she was beaten up or anything. She just sort of scraped it, and it kind of healed up, but it looks a little bit like, one of those old movies where the guy has a scar that goes, So, well, Joe, I have a couple Gmail accounts, several of them. But the one you should send things to is the ben.o.ciclid at gmail.com. I have probably 3 or 4 Gmail accounts, some related to business, some related to family. Ex-colleague Kev, I don't know. I mean, it would seem to me that maybe under the weight, I mean, those pads are probably not designed to handle the weight of an aquarium. So, and because they are electric and you have the risk of water leaking, that might also be a reason why it's not normally recommended. If you're going to go that route, you might as well just go the route of keeping the room you have the tanks in at a higher temperature. But I don't necessarily like that because I mean, you're sitting in a room that's 78 to 80 degrees. It can be a little uncomfortable. And in the case of the discus, I mean, I need to have that tank I keep it at 83. Tiffany, you would not be judged if you have an odd, unorthodox, uncommon, and sometimes not recommended combination of fish. After many years of keeping fish and being on YouTube, I've come to the conclusion that the tank that's right for you is the tank that's right for you, not for me or anybody else. So it would be safe to send me a picture of a tank with odd fish in it. Chef Steve, I start whenever I add aquarium salt, and I've been using the Fritz A+ aquarium salt. Whenever I use that, I start with 1 tablespoon for every 1 level tablespoon for every 5 gallons, dissolved into a large cup of water, and then added to the aquarium. And that is not what you would call a salt bath. A salt bath has a much higher concentration, and you give the fish a dip, right, for just a little bit, because they would start to stress in a higher concentration. But I've gotten good results with one tablespoon for every 5 gallons. Now, keep in mind that salt, those of you who keep saltwater fish, you know this. Salt doesn't evaporate. So when you have evaporation, your water line goes down, and you replace water. You should replace you don't need to replace salt. But if you do a water change and pull water out, yes, you should add an appropriate, a proportionate amount of salt to the aquarium. All right, my friends. Did I miss any super chats? I don't see any. If I did, I'm sorry. I wasn't looking necessarily for them. But I want to thank all of you for joining me here today. And thank you to my wonderful moderators for keeping it all family friendly. I'm going to go ahead and do a water change on the tank behind me and add a little more of that Fritz Malawi buffer and Fritz Malawi salt. It's working really, really well. You can see the fish. They look marvelous. And what really got driven home to me through that whole process of GH and KH and looking into that whole thing was the nutrients that are vital to the fish through that osmoregulation and the nutrients they pull out of the water, and how when those nutrients are not there, they struggle. They stress. It's almost like providing them with low quality food. Food that's just full of fillers and crap. So providing them with the right minerals. The KH was more to help prevent pH crash. Running the KH up was more for pH stability. The Malawi salt was, and it was to add the trace minerals and things like that they really get primarily in through their gills. And that is a form of important nutrition for the fish. And so if it's off, the fish is under stress. So that's why I started adding the Fritz products to the aquarium. And you can see, I think the fish are looking really good, and I think they're under less stress. Thank you, Heaven. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. All right. Chef Steve, my nitrate levels are running at around, since I started doing what I'm doing, and I change about 30% water. My nitrates are between 20 and 40 on the 300 gallon. 20 and 40. So, in case you're wondering. So there you go. So I want to thank all of you for joining me today. Thank you to my wonderful moderators. Thank you to all of you who subscribe and support the channel. And you are very appreciated. You rock, my friends, like I always say. I really do mean it. You do rock. And I think we will go ahead with that in mind and play a little jazz music and end off today's live stream. I will see you next week. Okay? Hope to see you here. That's it for me. Have a wonderful weekend. Love you all. And I know love's a strong word, but I do. Bye-bye.